On the surface, it might seem like the cast and crew working on a movie are the best of friends, but you'll be surprised to know that's not true. In fact, some of the biggest and most successful movies of all time have dealt with some pretty chaotic star and director feuds. Today, we're taking a look at some of the most notorious feuds between stars and their directors. Stay tuned for all the drama, starting with Olivia Wilde and Florence Pugh. In late April 2020, Olivia Wilde's psychological thriller starring Shia LaBeouf, Chris Pine, and Florence was announced. As time went on, the fans started noticing that something was up between Florence and Olivia. While the film's director was actively marketing it on social media, Florence, who is normally rather social, had completely forgotten to mention the film. Why was that? Page 6 recently reported information suggesting that Liv's romance with Harry caused tensions between Florence and Olivia. Since Olivia was still with Jason when she initially hooked up with Harry, the insiders said, "I can tell you for sure that Flo seeing Olivia and Harry all over one another on set did not go over well." A second insider said that early on, Jason and the kids on set made some people uneasy since they often visited Olivia. Sources claim Florence was dissatisfied that Liv kept disappearing to canoodle with her new lover between takes. So Olivia has been accused of being unprofessional as well. The author of an article published on August 27, 2022 by Puck News, named Matthew Bellany, argued that Pugh in particular was angered by the absences, according to these sources, and that Bellany had personally witnessed a tense conversation about this issue between Pugh and the director. Next, George Clooney and David O. Russell. According to reports, George Clooney and David O. Russell got into a fistfight on the set of the 1999 film Three Kings due to rising tensions between the two. Charles Roven, one of the film's producers, claims that Clooney was exhausted after filming ER and Three Kings back to back, and that Russell was under pressure from the studio to cut costs. According to rumors, the last straw came when Clooney saw Russell shouting at a member of the staff. It became a tussle between the two of them. Clooney said in an interview with Playboy from the year 2000 that Russell's aggressiveness was an issue for the whole set, including the script supervisor in extra and the director's own camera car driver. Former co-workers have come forward to accuse Russell of on-set abuse in the wake of 2017's disclosures about Harvey Weinstein. Moving on, Kevin Smith and Bruce Willis. Kevin Smith was a tremendous admirer of Bruce Willis before he ever got to work with the actor. While Smith's ideal job was to direct a film starring Bruce Willis, he soon found out that the reality of it was not what he expected. According to director Smith, Willis was recalcitrant and wouldn't sit down for a poster shooting. The director admitted to the press that he was on the verge of taking his own life, or that of a cast member, if not for Tracy Morgan. People now know that Willis suffers from aphasia, a progressive disorder of the brain that causes difficulty with speech and other forms of communication. But at the time, they assumed he merely had a terrible attitude. After the actor's illness became public knowledge, the director publicly apologized for his comments. Not to forget Keira Knightley and John Carney. Even though Keira Knightley and Mark Ruffalo's musical drama Begin Again was relatively harmless, it came as a shock when Carney, the film's director, called Knightley a supermodel and criticized her performance in an interview with The Independent. He first said unflattering things about her acting skills, such as being a film actress needs a certain degree of honesty and self-analysis that I don't believe she's ready for just now, but then apologized. While accepting Carney's apologies, Knightley said that she and Carney didn't get on during the filming of Begin Again. In addition, she said, "It's simply a thing that occurs occasionally, and I say that with no blame. The tango is a dance for two." Following up, Megan Fox versus Michael Bay. Megan Fox, who starred in Transformers, went on a public rant after the film's release, likening director Michael Bay to Adolf Hitler and Napoleon. Guardian. Fox went on to talk about how Bay was a pain to deal with as a director. She did add that when they were away from the set and he wasn't in director mode, he's a pain to deal with, the source said. But when you get him away from the set and he's not in director mode, she learned to appreciate his personality, which was more awkward than she thought. He has no social skills at all. When he's not on stage, he's a gentle giant, but off camera, he's a delicate wimp, said Fox. Fox's public shaming of the actress didn't sit well with director Michael Bay or producer Steven Spielberg, so they swiftly removed her from the franchise. After Fox's remarks, Bay disregarded her, saying that it was just Megan, so he wasn't wounded by it. Megan is always eager to hear from you, and she goes about it in an awkward way. He said he apologized to Megan. He said he wanted to say sorry for keeping her in the office for 12 hours, and sorry to be the one to make her punctual. Movies don't always leave you feeling all warm and fuzzy inside. Bay and Fox have reconciled, and she will be appearing in one of Bay's Ninja Turtle movies. Fox defended her part in the argument, never taking back her statements but saying that she justified her actions by saying that they were necessary. As she became older, she realized that it was never a good idea to share the details of her personal struggles with anybody. You should never publicly shame someone like that. Not to mention Henri-Georges Clouzot and Brigitte Bardot. In the 1950s and 1960s, the French filmmaker Henri-Georges Clouzot was a household name for his work in the horror genre. In 1960, for the film La Vérité, translated as The Truth, the director wanted Brigitte Bardot to drool and nod off on set. According to The Guardian, he allegedly offered the actress sleeping drugs, saying they were painkillers. Bardot overdid it, and she had to have her stomach pumped. Bardot described Clouzot as a negative creature, perpetually at conflict with himself and the world around him after the fact. However, this was not Clouzot's first run-in with the law. In 1947, he was said to have smacked Suzy Delaire on the set of Quai des Orfèvres. Up next, Gene Hackman and Wes Anderson. Anderson's picture is one of the gentlest and funniest in his career, delving into the depths of human nature to disclose its existential horrors and simplest delights. And although the on-screen antics may have appeared like a jolly good time, the scenario behind the scenes was significantly more chaotic, as Wes Anderson argued with Gene Hackman over artistic and professional issues. According to Anderson's interview with book author Matt Zoller Seitz, the Wes Anderson collection was written without his approval. Multiple accounts claim that on the set of the picture, Hackman used a pretty vulgar insult for the filmmaker, bringing down Wes Anderson's morale to the point that Bill Murray came in on his days off to protect the director from the bitter star. Co-star Angelica Houston also had a tense relationship with Hackman, so it wasn't only the filmmaker who got the short end of the stick. Although they had a rocky working relationship, Anderson still has great memories of his time with Gene Hackman, who he credits as a major factor in attracting an audience to the film. They constantly bring him up whenever they get together to discuss the film. He went on to praise the Oscar winner, saying, "He's a big force, and I really enjoyed working with him. He was really difficult to work with, but it was thrilling to see him go headfirst into Anderson's sequences." In actual life, Wes Anderson seems as kind, sentimental, and funny as the characters in his films. In just 3 years following the film's debut, Gene Hackman would call it quits as an actor. Let's talk about Edward Norton and Tony Kaye in American History X. Among Hollywood's movies, American History X is perhaps the most interesting. It's one of those hidden Hollywood treasures that never gets enough credit. Despite the magnificence of the picture and the brutal tale, there are also some contrasting stories behind the cameras. American History X was Tony Kaye's first major major picture, and it might have made him a star, but he was pushed to the side because of a disagreement with several of the film's performers, including Edward Norton. The disagreement began when the filmmaker objected to the wish of the distribution business, New Line Cinema, to change anything in the picture. The studio ultimately opted to remove Kay's final cut powers and include Norton in the editing process. As a demonstration of how upset the director was, he punched a hole in the wall and required sutures. Ads, costly litigation, and bizarre meeting shenanigans, including the fact that Kay supposedly invited a priest, rabbi, and Tibetan monk to a studio meeting at one point, didn't help the director and only served to further alienate him from the film business he so obviously loved. After the failure of American History X, he almost went bankrupt, and it took him over a decade to direct another major picture. What's more, Katherine Heigl and Judd Apatow in Knocked Up. Katherine Heigl's attitude and reputation as being difficult to work with are well known in the profession. This reputation, however, did not begin until after she appeared in Knocked Up, a film directed by Judd Apatow. She gained notoriety after commenting in an interview that the film is sexist and stereotypes the female characters as shrews. The director was taken aback by her comments, and so was Seth Rogen, who portrayed her on-screen love interest. Both the filmmaker and Rogen felt really misled and disappointed by her actions. Finally, Stanley Kubrick and Shelley Duvall in The Shining. Even though Kubrick was a genius who made one of the most iconic films of all time, he came off as a huge pain to the performers in The Shining by traumatizing Shelley, isolating her, having her repeat the baseball bat sequence around 127 times, instructing the crew to ignore her, and making her weep. He was able to obtain an extraordinarily fragmented performance from Duvall. From May through October, she was in and out of poor health due to the stress of the job, she claimed in The Complete Kubrick. She said that Stanley probed and pushed her more than anybody else ever had. She rated it as the most challenging part she's ever played. That's a wrap for this video. So which one of these was the worst in your opinion? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.